On April 26, 1986, a massive explosion occurred at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in Ukraine, which part of the Soviet Union. The blast destroyed the reactor's core and released a cloud of radioactive material into the atmosphere. The explosion was caused by a flawed reactor design and a series of human errors during a safety test. But what if I told you that the Soviet authorities initially tried to cover up the incident and downplay its severity? What if I told you that a small group of brave men risked their lives to prevent a catastrophic meltdown that could have wiped out half of Europe? And what if I told you that the Chernobyl disaster is still affecting us today in ways that you may not expect? In this video, we will reveal the truth about the Chernobyl disaster, its heroes, fallout, and aftermath. Stay tuned until the end to find out more. The Chernobyl disaster was not immediately known to the world. The Soviet authorities tried to evacuate the nearby town of Pripyat without informing the residents of the true nature of the emergency. They also did not notify the International Atomic Energy Agency. However, their attempt to hide the truth soon failed, thanks to a radiation monitoring station in Sweden. 2 days after the explosion, a radiation monitoring station in Forsmark, Sweden, detected a continuous rise in radiation levels. They contacted other European countries and found out that they also detected increased radiation levels. Using wind direction data and atmospheric modeling, they traced the origin of the radiation to the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in Ukraine. This was the first indication to the outside world that something had gone terribly wrong at Chernobyl. The revelation that radiation was coming from Ukraine prompted the Soviet authorities to admit the accident and request international assistance. It also alerted the world to the gravity of the situation and the need for immediate action. The radiation levels at Chernobyl were so high that they could cause acute radiation sickness, cancer, and death. The explosion also created the risk of a second, even more devastating explosion if the molten core of the reactor came into contact with water. This could have triggered a nuclear chain reaction that would have released enough energy to vaporize the entire power plant and spread radioactive material across half of Europe. To prevent this scenario, a team of 3 men volunteered to perform a heroic act that would save millions of lives. The 3 men were Alexei Ananenko, Valery Bespalov, and Boris Baranov. They were engineers and workers at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. They knew that there was a huge pool of water beneath the reactor, which was used as a coolant and a backup power source. They also knew that if the molten core reached the water, it would cause a massive steam explosion that would make the situation much worse. They decided to risk their lives to drain the water from the pool and prevent the meltdown. They had to enter the basement of the reactor building, which was flooded with radioactive water, and manually open the valves that would release the water. They wore only basic protective gear, such as wetsuits and gas masks, and had no idea if they would survive the mission. The 3 men entered the basement and made their way through the dark, labyrinthine corridors, guided by a flashlight. They reached the valves and managed to open them, successfully draining the water from the pool. They then returned to the surface, where they were greeted by their colleagues as heroes. They had just averted a potential catastrophe that could have killed millions of people and rendered Europe uninhabitable for centuries. The 3 men's sacrifice was not in vain, but it was not enough to stop the consequences of the Chernobyl disaster. The explosion and the subsequent fire at the reactor released about 400 times more radioactive material than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. The radioactive cloud spread over Europe and beyond, contaminating the air, soil, water, and food. The most dangerous chemical released was iodine-131, which accumulates in the thyroid gland and causes thyroid cancer. The Chernobyl disaster had immediate and long-term effects on human health and the environment. The immediate casualties included 31 people who died within the first 3 months of the accident, mostly firefighters and cleanup workers who were exposed to high levels of radiation. Thousands more were affected by acute radiation sickness. About 350,000 people were evacuated from the 30-kilometer exclusion zone around the power plant, losing their homes and livelihoods. The radioactive fallout contaminated large areas of land, especially in Ukraine, Belarus, and Russia. The Chernobyl disaster was a wake-up call for the world to take nuclear safety seriously and to prevent similar disasters from happening again. One of the efforts made to mitigate future risks was the construction of the sarcophagus, a massive steel and concrete structure that was built to enclose the damaged reactor and contain the radiation. The sarcophagus was completed in November 1986, just 7 months after the accident. However, the sarcophagus was not meant to last forever, and it soon developed cracks and leaks that threatened to release more radiation. Therefore, a new and more durable structure was needed to replace the sarcophagus and ensure the long-term safety of Chernobyl. The new structure, called the New Safe Confinement (NSC), was designed to last for at least 100 years and to allow for the eventual dismantling of the reactor and the removal of the radioactive material. The NSC is a colossal arch-shaped structure that weighs 36,000 tons and spans 257 meters in length, 162 meters in width, and 108 meters in height. It is the largest movable land-based structure ever built, and it was assembled in a safe area near the reactor and then slid into place over the sarcophagus in November 2016. The NSC cost about 1.5 billion euros to build and was funded by an international consortium of donors. The NSC is a symbol of the global cooperation and solidarity that emerged from the Chernobyl disaster. We hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Wonderful Stories, and hit the bell icon to get notified of our new videos. We would love to hear your thoughts and feedback in the comments section below.